Scanning for audio.
Welcome to another Tin Dog podcast. Yes, it's Blake 7 Summer and we're talking episode 2. Episode 1 was called The Way Back, and episode 2, which follows on immediately, is called Spacefall. Spacefall for no adequately explored reason. We left our heroes, or our hero and a collection of people he may have just met, on board the ship London, a converted freighter on its way to Cygnus Alpha, the penal colony. A place, a dumping ground for everyone. Yes, it's the everyday story of getting from A to B. Again, in the title sequence, you see that rather sleek, nice white spaceship, a ship you've not seen in the show. This would not happen in an American TV programme. Well, not these days. It would act as a spoiler. And the fact that it's called Blake's 7 and not something like Blake's Struggle or something like that, well, or even Rebellion, that just doesn't quite work. These people are bored. This is basically Group 4 security in space. Contracted to drop people off and then leave. You've got people who are past it or people on their way up. That's the sort of group you've got. People who want to be young captains. People who want to, well, abuse the system. It's a small spaceship that apparently has faster than light travel. Admittedly, when the faster-than-light travel kicks in, you see the smoke from the engines rise up in the studio, and that's something that I'm sure shouldn't have happened on everyone's watch. The way you get round that is by filming a model facing down so that then it doesn't matter. That's not important. These days, you would just use some computer program, and the models just wouldn't look quite as nice. So, I'm away from that. I said I'd not talk about the model work. But I can't help it because the Liberator's in this story. Sorry. Everyone's on board the ship, all of the characters. You get to meet someone called Kerr Avon, played by the incredible Paul Darrow. There are other characters turning up here and there, young people who you think, oh, they might be one of the 7 in the titles. You're trying to tick people off on the list and work out who's who. Where's everyone going? Because everyone's on their way to Cygnus Alpha. The plot fits into some very neat sections. You've got section 1, the recap, the fact that Blake is strapped into his seat. He's already kicked off about the fact that he's innocent and wants to go back to Earth, and he will return. Which is fair enough, and largely unlikely. This man now has a bone to pick. The ship basically is on its way, and then they see something on the monitors. People, of course, on an 8-month journey are bored. There's nothing to do and there's only 2 rooms, and the prisoners are basically left to themselves to fight it out and sort things out amongst themselves, which is not a very healthy approach and not a very good way of going on. There are seedy people in charge who get beaten up by Jenna, and good on her. Jenna has the potential to be a brilliant character, and indeed in the audio stories that is developed so much more, but here not so much. But again, I'm ahead of myself. Avon is revealed to be the 2nd greatest computer programmer, and also the person who obviously has slipped Terry Nation 20 quid in order to get the best lines. He's cynical, sarcastic, nasty, but then you've got Villa, my personal favourite. As a kid, I was growing up and I just loved Villa. He was brilliant, he was funny, and the best thing Villa ever does is in the last series of Blake 7, where he knows how to fix the engine, and he turns up drunk, and he tells everyone how to fix it, but he can't go outside and fix the engine because he's drunk, so everyone else has to go and do it. and what he's done is he's pretended to be drunk because he doesn't want to go outside because it's dangerous. Not so much a coward as someone who knows the realities and is cleverer than anyone else around. He is a lockpick and a thief, yes, but he's pretending to be drunk in order to survive. Perhaps it's not one of life's greater lessons. Perhaps I should have looked more favourably upon the heroes of the piece, someone struggling against society in order to win through. But the one I latched onto as a kid, the one who I wanted to emulate, was the thief who was into self-preservation. And of course, he is that wonderful thing, the funny one. So you've got Villa, you've got Jen, and there's a big bloke at the back called Gan, who is clearly the muscle. There are also other characters dotted around who have a lot to say and a lot to do, and you think they could be one of the 7, and indeed it could be anyone. The 7 may not even turn up. And if Blake has 7, does that mean he needs 7 more people, or is it him and 6 others? That I never ever figured out. And then they come across on their monitors a battle going on. Now, at this point, you're under the impression that the Federation rule everything, that the Federation are basically just a collection of Earth colonies, a lot like, say, the planets in Firefly. There are no aliens out there. And the fact that there's a war going on that they want nothing to do with either means that they suspect that it's some sort of massive Federation training exercise that's a secret, or something else involving aliens and they just don't want anything to do with them. It's an odd reaction, but it's the reaction that we see on screen. Eventually, one of the blops on the screen, very nicely animated as well, manages to just float derelict in space. And they decide to board it, to create some sort of cash thing. This is the first mention of major money. But, as you know, this is Group 4 in space, a security firm hired to drop people off, and they'll get paid the same whether they drop people off or not. It's the logs that would need to be faked, and of course Avon has a whole subplot where this might happen. Rebellion is only happening on board ship because there's nothing else to do, and they want to seize control of the ship and, well, turn it around and go back to Earth and be heroes, or just be free. So the subplot of trying to escape happens whether you like it or not. But it's this other derelict spaceship that is much better. They pull up alongside this gigantic, white, sleek, gorgeous spaceship. Yes, it's got swept things and it's white, just like the Enterprise. But unlike the Enterprise, it's got 3 prongs. And yes, everyone, when they looked at the model, thought it flew the other way, and the green glowy thing at the back, which we'll just call the engine room, well, that was the front. But it's gigantic, it's huge, it's majestic, and it's the best bit of model making to come out of the BBC Special Effects department of all time. I am biased, I adore the Liberator, and the fact that Matt was selling it on eBay for a few grand just broke my heart. The Museum of Television and Film should have it on display so that people would come from far and wide to see it. It should have its own museum. It shouldn't just be in somebody's front room. But that's just me loving models. Anyway. The nameless spaceship is just hanging there in space, in distress. The London, that's the name of the ship, pulls up alongside, docks with it along a rather nice little rubber tunnel, and then people try and go on board, and they don't come back. So more people try and go on board. They don't come back either, which isn't great, but it is predictable. So they decide to send the prisoners. Now, one of the prisoners you send over is, of course, Rog Blake, a man who's had his mind messed about with, and they get on board, and there's a defence mechanism on board the ship, a glowy, weird screen trying to mess with people's heads. Blake's head has been messed with so many times that he can spot this coming a mile off, and that rocks as a bit of storytelling. He manages to save Jenna and Avon, and then there's a standoff, because everybody else is dead. And the Liberator, well, that decides to pull away. Blake's 2 are free. There aren't 7 of them. And Blake, of course, will have plans. They have a whole ship to investigate and to discover what it does. It is apparently alien, although it's got seats that seem to fit human beings remarkably well. It would have been nicer if they'd been too small or too big for them, or had, say, 2 headrests, that kind of thing. Something a bit more alien than that. But as a design, it's fairly iconic and works for me. One big studio, one big set. There is a strange computer, but that will come to another time, because that's for the next episode. Yes, our hero has escaped. He's taken 2 rather dodgy characters with him, and he wants to go to Cygnus Alpha and recruit people. He wants to rescue them. Why? I have no idea, but let's go there, because this is a great spaceship, and it's now the spaceship from the opening titles. So thank you for joining me on this trip round Blake 7, and I'll speak to you soon about episode 3. Spacefall, an episode named for no apparent reason, works. Yes, there's a very dodgy, wibbly bit of model work where somebody falls into space, but what would somebody look like when they fall into space other than a spinny little action man figure? So I'm bidding you farewell, and I'll speak to you very soon about Doctor Who or Blake 7. Enjoy your summer. Be seeing you. You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast, available on RSS, iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom and Tumblr. Doctor Who and its associated works are copyright of the BBC. No infringement is intended. You can contact the show, donate, buy merchandise or find out more about my other projects by visiting the Tin Dog Podcast homepage and clicking on the links. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. On the 5th of September 2015, Hooverville will return. The biggest little Doctor Who convention in the whole of the UK is proud to present several fantastic guests. First off is the Colin Baker, a man who needs absolutely no introduction. Guests also include the author Jenny Colgan, responsible for Dark Horizons and Time Trips, Richard Marson, the man behind JNT, The Life and Scandalous Times, and the brand new book Drama and Delight, the biography of Verity Lambert, Dan Starkey, the man behind the mask when it comes to Commander Strax, and of course Ian the Elf in the Christmas special, Terence Dix, one of the men behind the Third Doctor and more Target novelisations than you can shake a stick at, the actor David Benson, from Robot of Sherwood, Iris Wildtime and the Scarifiers, Matthew Waterhouse, yes, Adrake, Michael Pickwood, the current production manager on Doctor Who, and Karen Louise Hollis, author of The Man Behind the Master, the biography of Anthony Ainley. More guests may be added, but either way, that's a fantastic lineup. Visit the Derby Quad website on www.derbyquad.co.uk and follow the links. Saturday the 5th of September 2015. See you there.